California salon owner Lauren Scatia nearly lost it all to bogus CPA Lizzie Mulder, who embedded herself in her clients' lives and then embezzled $1.5 million from their businesses.
I absolutely think that Lizzie preyed upon my kindness, my kind nature.
In a story told in The Next American Greed, Mulder financed a beachfront home, even a pair of Arabian horses, by exploiting a basic vulnerability of small business owners.
They're out trying to generate revenue, dealing with advertising, all of the things that you see in small business. They're not paying attention to some of the details for their finances. And that's a bad move.
Most small businesses don't have the wherewithal to absorb big losses from a fraud, and they also don't have the resources that a big company has to fight it. But there are some things you can do to keep the scam artists at bay.
Forensic accountant Bruce Dubinsky says never give your bookkeeper access to your bank account.
That's probably the most common form of small business fraud that we see, gaining access to the bank account.
He says have bank statements sent to your home, not your business. Then read them carefully. Have an outside accountant look at your books from time to time. The key, trust but verify. Scott Cohn, CNBC's American Greed.
Terry's property.
So once you end up on that slippery slope, that's a major problem.
Bruce Dubinsky is an internationally recognized expert on financial fraud.
If you take a credit card that was issued in the corporate not-for-profit name and go out and use that in conjunction with the tax-exempt status and buy something personally, that's a problem. That's violating both the state rules on the tax exemption and the rules of using that corporate credit card for corporate purposes.
But Studi says Reader told him he could use the tax-exempt card.
He told us that if we ever needed it, just to give him a shout and we could use it.
And the I-Team found Reader wasn't the only one making questionable purchases with that tax-free credit card. Matching up codes on just one receipt, the I-Team found a $349 dishwasher, a $579 microwave, a $1,000 refrigerator, an $1,100 range, and a $2,300 washer and dryer combo in the color red, all purchased tax-free. And then there was a tractor cover, purchased with the cemetery's credit card from this Lowe's, 3 hours away in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
What is near that Lowe's in Virginia?
Lake Anna.
And what's at Lake Anna?
Superintendent's Lake House.
Ron Piercy is the cemetery superintendent and lives in this house at the entrance to Mount Olivet Cemetery, rent-free. But according to state records, he built this home, now worth nearly $500,000, on the banks of Lake Anna in 2007. That is the same year those appliances were purchased with the cemetery's card.
They're just using it to their advantage for personal gain.
Piercy isn't just Reader's boss, he's his stepfather. That's why Fox and Studi say they took what they found to the cemetery's board of directors. But the results were not what they expected.
You got fired.
Yep.
They get to keep working there.
Yep.
The News 4 I-Team reached out to Piercy, Reader, and the cemetery's board president, Colleen Remsburg, by writing detailed letters and making phone calls. Remsburg hung up on us.
The board has a duty to investigate it and go through a thorough investigation. If, in fact, they find that there's more problems and don't do anything about it, the IRS could come in and revoke the tax-exempt status of the organization.
The cemetery did finally provide a statement.
I think that the big takeaway is looking at how an accounting fraud takes place. Lehman Brothers was the largest financial institution collapse in the world. It was a $600 million bankruptcy, a vast empire of related entities, 4,000 related entities. And the takeaway will be looking at how the top management at Lehman Brothers perpetrated an accounting fraud. There are going to be some interesting emails we're going to look at, real-time emails. At the time, this was 2008, in the middle of the financial collapse. will look at how the accounting rules were used to perpetrate the fraud. The case is being litigated as we speak now. So it'll be very interesting to really see from accounting entries to legal opinions to emails from financial controllers at Lehman Brothers to top-level management how this all went down. It'll be very interesting to dissect that. And when we talk about rules-based accounting and principles-based accounting, the difference of knowing when to say, wait a second, I'm not sure what we're doing really follows the rules here. And if you're in international and looking at principles-based, knowing when to do the right thing. So we're going to talk a lot about that during the course. And I think that's important for people to take back to their institutions when they go back to their businesses, when they're confronted with a question of how to book a complicated financial transaction. When you start searching for the answer that you want instead of searching for the right answer, that's the slippery slope. And that's when accounting frauds typically occur. And in today's environment, you can typically go around and find somebody that will say what you want at the end of the day if you pay them money. And so we're going to look at that. We're going to talk about how Lehman Brothers shopped around for legal opinions from some of the best law firms in the country, couldn't obtain a legal opinion in the United States, so they went over to the UK and did find a very large firm that gave them the opinion that they were looking for. This case study, Lehman Brothers, will be studied in the business schools for years to come and in the fraud examining community. I think it's important. It's a great case. The examiner, Tony Valukas, who was the former federal prosecutor that did the examination, and I was one of the forensic accountants that worked with him, wrote a report over 1,200 pages long. So there's a lot of information in the study. There are emails. There are accounting entries. It touches on so many different aspects of what most people deal with. While a lot of people won't deal with a financial institution in their practice that large, the same principles can be downloaded to a smaller business. You deal with lawyers, you deal with accountants, you'll deal with financial pressures of meeting goals, whether it's reducing leverage in a balance sheet, whether it's increasing revenues. Those are all the same types of pressures that everybody faces. So as fraud examiner professionals, those are important things to understand, how to look at those and how that affects people in their jobs and how it eventually leads to potential accounting fraud. So I think it really has an impact on a wide variety of different professionals. One of the biggest common mistakes I see that lawyers make when they're using experts is not properly vetting the expert on the front end. And by that I mean, to be a good expert, you have to be able to communicate, convey complex ideas in a simple manner. And a lot of times the lawyers will look just on paper at what your credentials are, and credentials are important, but that's only part of the story. Years ago, a lot of lawyers would hire academics to go help them in the case and help them testify, and that's changed now. We find that a lot of the academics, while great with the theory, don't have the real-world experience that today's judges and the juries, people on the jury, want to see. So when you're looking at an expert that has academic experience versus a real-world battle-tested expert, there's a huge difference, and that is, as real-world experts, we've been in the client's shoes. We've been in their businesses. Some of our experts have even been traders on Wall Street. So when they're engaged in a case that involves trading issues, they've been there and done it. And that's a big difference versus somebody that has never been in the real world, has grown up either in the consulting world, always as an expert, or in academia. You can do a lot of research, that's great, but if you can't get on the stand and say, you know what, I've prepared 400 tax returns in my career, partnership returns, or I've been on a trading desk, that gives a huge leg up to the experts that have that real world experience. And that's what juries look for, and that's what judges look for today. My background is a CPA. I started out as a public accountant and had a tax practice for many years, and just found a very interesting niche of accounting, and that is forensic accounting. kind of being an investigator, being the Sherlock Holmes of the financial world, if you will. In addition to being a certified public accountant, I'm a certified fraud examiner. I have other credentials in the valuation area. Most of our experts are credentialed not in one field or discipline, but 2, 3, 4 disciplines. Unlike years ago where you could walk into court with maybe just one certification, today that doesn't work anymore. The courts are looking for heavily credentialed experts. Again, back to the concept of being battle tested. Having been on the stand and done it many times, the courts want that too. They want credentialed experts and experienced experts. I think the 2 things that sets Duff & Phelps apart are we have real-world battle-tested experts, number one. And that's so important and so different than many of our competitors. And the second thing that really sets us apart is our experts are involved experts where we get involved in the case in the very beginning, all the way through to the time our experts get up on the stand and testify. And that is a big difference that we see, and we hear many times back from the lawyers after the case, that is a difference between us and our competitors.